Hello viewer, welcome to the session of MS Excel Macro 2010. In this session we will see how to create a pivot table using VBA code. So objective of this session is, after this session you will learn how to declare a variable of object data type, how to assign objects to object variable using set keyword, and how to create a pivot using VBA code. To get started, we will go to the Excel workbook, and in Excel workbook you can see the data set of cells order placed. So order date, reason, rep, item, units, cost and total. So for this we are just going to create a pivot table with the help of Visual Basic Editor code, that is VBA code. So first we will create it manually. For creating it manually, we will just click on insert and from here we will just click on pivot table. Now the pivot table, create pivot table option is here. So we will just click on OK, and as you can see the new worksheet selection is there. That means this pivot is going to be created in new worksheet. So just click on OK. Now you can see here, to build a report, choose fields from the pivot table field list. That means the pivot is going to be created at cell A3, and in the right side you can see report filter, column label, row label and value label. So first I would like to tell you, so what are the object exist in pivot table. So in pivot table there will be basically two objects, that is table and field, and then we will be using the properties of those objects like orientation. So orientation is nothing but, like you can see here, the report filter, column labels, row labels and value. So these are the properties in VBA is for the Excel field property. So for that table field, pivot field property is, this report filter will be called as Excel page field, and then this column label field will be called as Excel column field, and this row label field will be called as Excel row field, and the value label field will be called as Excel data field. So those are the properties which we are going to use in VBA code for creating a pivot table. And then we will be using the sum functionality. So first we will create manually. So we will place the rep at row level, and then reason as report filter, and then item at column labels, and then total at value label field. So here you can see the pivot has been created with rep at row label and reason at page label, that is filter, report filter label, and then the total, sum of total at values, that is in VBA Excel data field level. So this is what we are going to create with the help of VBA code. So before we start, we will delete this sheet, as this sheet is entered while we were creating a pivot. So we will delete it. Now we will start with Visual Basic Editor. For that, just click on developer menu, then go to the Visual Basic tab, just click on it. Now we are placed into the Visual Basic Editor tab. So we will be writing here the code for creating a pivot table. So first of all we will create the subroutine. To get started with subroutine, start typing sub and just provide some meaningful names here. In this case I am just creating it as create pivot. Just enter it. Between sub and end sub we will be writing a code to create a pivot table. So first of all we will be declaring two variable of object data types. One is for table and one is for field. To get started, for declaring a variable, dim obj table. So obj table as pivot table, and then dim obj field as pivot field. So this is the two variable which we have created as object data type. So first one is of pivot table object and the second one is of pivot field object. Now we will be selecting sheet 1. For selecting sheet 1, that means for activating sheet 1, we will be writing a code like worksheet, or we can write it in another way as the workbook is active, so we can use active workbook dot worksheets, or we can use sheets and then index number. Both the codes are same. If you want to use sheets, you can use sheets or you can use worksheets. Now sheet 1 dot select. So here we are doing the activation of sheet 1. Now we will be selecting range A1. That means we are making our active selection as cell A1. So for that, range A1 dot select. Now our active selection is placed with this code as in cell A1. Now we will be assigning a values, assigning a objects to the declared object variable. So first, for object table we will use obj set keyword and then obj table equals to, now we will be assigning sheet 1 dot pivot table wizard. So this is the method of pivot table which we are calling here to create a new sheet where the new pivot table will be created. So this object is assigned to the obj table variable. Now we will be assigning the another object to object field variable equals to, now here we will be assigning, so as we have assigned the sheet 1 pivot table wizard to the object table, now we will be using the properties of pivot table wizard. So for using the pivot table wizard, as we have assigned this to object variable obj table, so we will be referring now obj table dot pivot fields. So this way and then here we will be giving the first name rep, as we are going to assign it at row level. So we will now set the orientation for this object field. So for changing the orientation, for assigning a orientation, we will use obj field dot orientation equals to Excel row field, meaning we have assigned the rep field to the object field here and orientation we have changed to Excel row field. Now we will assign another field, that is obj field equals to, now again obj table dot pivot field, and here we will be assigning item, and the orientation will be, as we are placing the item in column field, so the orientation we will change to Excel column field. So for that the code will be obj field dot orientation equals to Excel column field. Now we will assign fill to the page orientation. So for that we will be setting obj fill to obj table dot pivot fill, and here we will be assigning Excel the values, the field from the data set. So here we are going to assign a region, and this we will take orientation as Excel page field. Now we will be assigning the data level field. So for that we will be setting the object variable as object field equals to obj table dot pivot field, and here we will place total. Now we will set the orientation of it, that means in which column we are going to place this field. So for that obj field dot orientation equals to Excel data field. Now here, as we are going to place the data field, so for that we will, what function we are going to use, that also we need to mention here. So for mentioning that we will be using here obj field dot function and equals to Excel, as you can see, average, count, count nums, max, mean, product, standard deviation, and all the functions which we are using in pivot table value fields. So these we are going to assign here. So here we will use Excel sum. Now our code is ready to create a pivot table. So this is what a simple and very smaller code to create a pivot table. Now we will run it. For running it, first we will go to the Excel workbook from here, and from here we will just click on the macro tab. Now the macro is appearing in the list of the macros. So as create pivot macro is already selected, we will just run it. For running it, now you have seen the new worksheet, sheet 9 has been added with the pivots. So this is how we can create a pivot table with the help of VBA code. Thank you, viewer.